Good morning, good evening, friends. Welcome to my channel, Ek Kitab Se Ek Moti. Today I've selected 7 verses, or kurals as they are called in Tamil, from the great classic Thirukkural. I've already made a few videos on the Thirukkural, but as I have explained in some of my videos, I consider different editions of the book, of the same book, to be different books for the sake of my channel, because each different edition or a different translation has some new way of looking at some of the verses. So today I'm going to bring 7 verses, a translation of the 7 verses of Thiruvallur, who has written the Thirukkural. So I'm going to read out the translations of these 7 verses, and then we'll have a brief discussion, and we'll try to unpack and unfold the wisdom that's contained in these 7 verses. So the book is this, Thirukkural. So it's an English translation. An English translation. I think it's translation. It's an English translation by Sri V.V.S. Aiyar. A few words about Mr. V.V.S. Aiyar. He was a patriot, a scholar. I think he also wrote an English book on the Kambar Ramayanam. Kamban was a great Tamil poet, and his Ramayana is extremely popular in Tamil Nadu and also in several other parts of our country. So there are a few Hindi translations of the Kambar Ramayana as well. So I'm going to make a few videos on the Kambar Ramayanam soon. I have seen quite a few excellent Hindi translations. I mean, the book is a bit expensive because I think the translation is in 2 volumes, if I'm not wrong, maybe, or if it's a single volume, then it'll have thousands of pages. Similarly, in Tamil, there are some publication houses that publish the translation or kind of interpretation of the verses of Kambar Ramayanam. So they too, come in like multiple volumes. So I'm going to buy one of those volumes in English and Hindi, and then I'm going to make a few videos soon on the Kambar Ramayanam. So V.V.S. Aiyar was a patriot, and he died young. I think he was 44 when he died. And I was just reading the introduction section in this book, and it said that he died in 1925. So I remember going through the complete works of Mahatma Gandhi, and I came across his name as well. So Gandhi ji had a message of condolence on the death of this great patriot. I think he drowned in a river. So it was an untimely death of a great patriot. Had he lived longer, I think we should have seen more such excellent translations of Tamil classics from him. So let's move on to the verses that I've selected for today. So these verses appear in the 40th chapter of the Thirukkural, and each chapter of the Thirukkural has 10 verses. So I'm just skipping 3, and I'm going to read the translations of 7 verses, and then we'll discuss them and how we can apply them in our lives or to our lives, and then transform our lives for the better, and give it a positive direction. So let's read the first one, verse number 391. That's from the 40th chapter. And the title of the chapter in Tamil is Kalvi, which means learning or acquiring knowledge, acquiring wisdom, acquiring instruction, training, and so on. Acquire thoroughly the knowledge that is worth acquiring, and after acquiring it, walk thou in accordance therewith. Now this is ancient English, ancient in a sense, the English that has been patterned after or modeled after the English of the King James Version Bible, or the authorized version. It has a different name. So It's called the King James Bible, or the King James Version, or the Authorized Version, because it was authorized by King James of England. It was authorized to be read in the churches of England, and also to be read privately by the public in the UK. Now, I'm not sure whether it was authorized to be read privately. That's beyond my. I don't have much information about that, so I should correct myself. It was authorized to be read in public, but I'll be making a video on the English, the beautiful English that appears in the King James Version later on, where I'll have more to say on why King James authorized it and what influence it has had on English literature for the last 400 or so years. It was published in 1611, so now it's 2025, so 414 years, I think, because in 2011 the King James completed 400 years of its publication. So 2025, so it's 414 years, yes. So I'll make a video on the King James Version and its English. So to modify it and to make it a bit modern, this English that VVS Aiyar has used, so I'll just read it again. Acquire thoroughly the knowledge that is worth acquiring, and after acquiring it, you walk in accordance with that knowledge that you acquire. Second one, two are the eyes of living kind. The one is called numbers, and the other letters. The learned alone can be said to possess eyes. The unlettered have but two sores in their head. Sores, in a sense, wounds. Sores, wounds, boils. So instead of having eyes, they have sores. That is, they can't see with those eyes. So we'll have a discussion on why people who are not learned don't have real eyes. I mean, they have this eyes of flesh, but they don't have this eyes of wisdom to interpret events and to benefit from them, and learn some lessons from them. So I'm skipping the next one, and I'm skipping the next one as well. I'm moving on to verse number 396. Knowledge is like unto a sandspring. The more thou diggest and drawest thereat, the more excellent is the flow thereof. Now, to make it a bit modern, knowledge can be compared to a sandspring. The more you dig it, the more you draw from it, the more excellent is the flow. Next is verse number 397. Everywhere is his. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm skipping this. Let me move on to 390. So I'm skipping 3 verses. 390, verse number 398. The learning that a man acquireth in this birth will exalt him even unto his 7th reincarnation. To modernize it, let me just read it again. The learning that a man acquires in this birth will exalt him even unto his 7th reincarnation, or even until his 7th rebirth. Next, verse number 399. The learned man seeth that the learning that delighteth him delighteth also all that listen to him, and he loveth instruction all the more on that account. The modern version, the learned man sees that the learning that delights him delights also all that listen to him, or all who listen to him, and he loves instruction all the more because of that, or on that account is also, I think it's still used in modern English. Next, verse number 400. An imperishable and flawless treasure is learning to a man. Other wealth is as nothing before it. Now this is fine. This is modern. An imperishable and flawless treasure is learning to a man. Other wealth is as nothing compared to it, or as nothing before it. So these are the 7 verses for today's video. Let's unpack and unfold each of these verses so that we can apply these in the modern context, and so that we can reinterpret it in modern terminology. I think the terminology is quite modern, so we'll have mainly we'll be looking at how we can apply these gems of wisdom to our modern situation, to our modern world. The first verse we read from this excellent translation by Mr. VVS Aiyar is this: acquire thoroughly the knowledge that is worth acquiring, and after acquiring it, walk thou in accordance therewith. So, first you acquire the knowledge as thoroughly as is possible, and after you've acquired that knowledge or internalized it, you live according to that knowledge, or you put it into practice. So there is emphasis on acquiring knowledge thoroughly. So I made a video on this principle or law of leadership, which is called production precedes perfection. So in that I said that you usually acquire some knowledge of your subject, then you put it into practice, and then you learn from it, and then you kind of, based on your new experience, you still continue to acquire knowledge, and then you put into practice, then you gain some more new experiences, and that's how you progress in any given field. Now, the time when Thiruvallur wrote the Thirukkural, there must have been quite a few books on the code of conduct for the king, the code of conduct for the ministers, and there should have been several books recommended for a person depending on his or her profession. So I think the Thirukkural, some of the chapters have been mainly written for kings. So if you read this verse in that context, it means that a king should acquire all kinds of knowledge, military knowledge about the military, knowledge about politics, knowledge about finance, and acquire all the theoretical knowledge and then put it into practice. Now, this doesn't kind of negate or cancel what I said in that video. Here it means that if you have all the books available related to your field, you just learn them all and then you put it into practice, and then of course you'll gain more experience, and then you'll have a better understanding of the theoretical knowledge that you've acquired. But in modern day context, knowledge is just exploding. There is an information explosion, right, everywhere. So there are just innumerable books. No one can read all the books thoroughly that are available. So within the specialized and limited field that we work in, we can try to read as many books on that subject as possible. We can try to acquire as many we can take as many courses as possible related to our fields, and then acquire them thoroughly, think about them, digest them, and then put them into practice. I think that is what we should do in this world of information explosion. So that principle still holds, but the only thing is we don't have limited books nowadays. We have just information explosion, so we'll have to choose a specific field and then just master that field and then put that knowledge into practice. But we'll continue to upgrade our skills because the world is changing very fast now. So that's the first principle. Second one, two are the eyes of living kind. The one is called numbers and the other letters. So acquire a knowledge of language. So letters, in a sense, learn the grammar of the language that you want to master. Learn the words, that is, go through the dictionary and listen to some good speakers of that language and read good books available in that language. So that's literary knowledge. And the other thing is numbers. Be good at arithmetic, basic mathematics. I mean, if you're a physicist or a mathematician, you may have to study calculus and all higher mathematics for your to do well in your field. But if you are in a field other than these, maybe physics, maths, or nowadays I think even in biology, mathematics is being used. Economics, we use a lot of mathematics. So there are many subjects that use higher mathematics, but in some professions we won't need a very high level of mathematics. So if you have a good understanding of arithmetic and basic algebra, That should be sufficient. So you should know addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and you should know how interest works, compound interest, simple interest. You should know how the shares are allotted and so on. And basic accountancy, you should be able to prepare an account of your income and expenses and know your balance, maybe every month. So I'm just trying to recall the words we used. I was a student of accountancy. Balance sheet. So you need to prepare a balance sheet of the assets that you possess, the liabilities, and so on. So you should have a good understanding of letters and numbers. Principle number 3. The learned alone can be said to possess eyes. The unlettered have but 2 swords in their head. Now, unlettered doesn't mean someone who hasn't gone to school. Unlettered means anyone who is not interested in increasing his or her knowledge. There can be no excuse for not learning because you can learn the basic letters. Like if you're learning the English language, 26 letters of the alphabet, acquire them, and then gradually start making words and going through the dictionary, going through books of grammar, listening to good speakers. If it's, let's say, for example, Hindi, you just go through the Varnamala, the Swara Vyanjan, and so on, and you learn the Ka Kha Ga Gha and the A I E, and it's easy. And then you have access to all the great books in the world. You just need these letters, right? Once you know the letters, then the next step is to know the sounds and how to put together these words. But these will come. But know the letters first, and then you'll gradually increase your knowledge. But if you don't possess knowledge, what Thirukkural is saying is that you but possess 2 sores, that is wounds. That is, they are not actually functioning like eyes, because you may have this physical vision, but then to interpret events and to kind of pierce through the visible aspect and trying to get at the essence of situations will be difficult for you without a knowledge of letters, without some knowledge of books, and without some analytical powers. Your eyes will just be eyes of flesh. Next principle, knowledge. Knowledge or intelligence is like unto a sandspring. The more you dig and draw, that is, the more books you read, the more learning you acquire, the more training programs you attend, the more thinking you do thereat, the more excellent is the flow thereof. Let me read it without the brackets. Knowledge or intelligence is like unto a sandspring. The more you dig and draw thereat, the more excellent is the flow thereof. So here's a comparison. So the sandwell or the sandspring is compared to the mind, I think. Let's see what kind of comparison here is. Knowledge is like unto a sandspring. Knowledge or wisdom or intelligence is compared to the sandspring. So when you dig the sandspring, that's a process, digging and drawing water. So similarly, in the field of intelligence or knowledge, reading is like digging, thinking, attending training programs, taking courses, and so on. These are digging in the field of the mind or intelligence. So that's the comparison. So when you dig a sandwell or a sandspring, what happens? Water gushes forth or flows from it. So the deeper you dig, the more water you get. Similarly, the more you read, the more you attend seminars, the more you think, you'll increase your intelligence and knowledge. This is a great verse and one of my favorite verses. Next, the learning that a man acquireth in this birth will exalt him even unto his 7th reincarnation. So in Hinduism, we believe in rebirth. So some people might be discouraged, to think of all the things that they're going to learn, and one day we are going to die and everything will go away with that death, right? Physical death. But that need not happen. That's why learning should be a lifelong process. You continue learning, and there is an assurance from Thirukkural that this learning will help you in your 7 births to come. Now, I had a neighbor, he was called, his name is Mr. Padi. When I was in Chennai, my neighbor was Mr. Padi. So one day we were just discussing certain things, and he took a piece of paper from his pocket, and he said somewhere, I think he was traveling, and maybe on the bus, they have these boards in Tamil Nadu, boards where you have these verses from the Thirukkural just next to the seat where the driver sits. The driver, right, sits on the right hand side of the bus, and just in the center, just ahead of him, in the front portion, just above the mirror, is this kind of message, a board, where you have this, or a frame where you have these verses from the Thirukkural. For example, there is one famous kural in Tamil which says, Adakkam amararul uikkum adangame arirul uittuvidum. That is self-control. Adakkam amar, self-control will lead you to heaven, but lack of self-control will lead you to hell. So these things influence us a lot. So similarly, he saw this message on knowledge, that will help us in the next 7 births to come, and he was very happy. So this gives us a lot of happiness and joy, because we just keep acquiring knowledge, and sometimes we might discuss thinking that it's just a finite world that we live in. Maybe we'll live for 80 years, 90, 100 years, but after that what? All the knowledge, will it go waste? No. Thiruvallur assures us, and we can be rest assured that this knowledge will help us through our 7 more births to come. Next, the learned man seeth that the learning seeth that the learning that delighteth him delighteth also all that listen to him, and he loveth instruction and acquiring of knowledge all the more on that account. Now this is a great verse, and it applies to YouTubers like me. For example, just see the application. The learned man, I'm not saying I'm learned, but I read a lot of books. So the learned man seeth that the learning that delighteth him. So I read books, I really delight in those books. I feel happy, I feel the sense of joy when I get nice, good information, life-transforming information. So just look at the comparison. The learned man seeth that the learning that delighteth him delighteth also that listen to him. For example, since I've started recently, a month ago, I started uploading a lot of videos. So usually I upload 2 videos a day. I've been following it for 2-3 weeks, this discipline. Kind of early in the morning I get up, and the first or the second thing I do is the first few things that I do includes this making of 2 videos in Hindi and English. Later on, I'll be making videos in Tamil as well, because it has been a while since I really read my Tamil books. So I'm preparing for my YouTube videos. Just be ready to watch my Tamil videos as well. So I'm kind of sharpening my Tamil skills using dictionaries, using grammar, and more grammar, and more grammar, and more grammar. So I believe acquiring of grammar is essential. So all these books I'm going through, and within a month or 2, or maybe 3-4 months maximum, I'll be able to. And this is the one I bought from the Kashi Tamil Sangamam. So this is basic Tamil, and the author signed this for me. He said Anbudan, that is with love or with affection. Anbudan, best wishes. So I'm going to read all these, and I'm preparing myself. Just like Lincoln said, I will study and prepare, and my time will come. So I'm studying and preparing, and my time will come when I'll be making these Tamil videos for my Tamil viewers as well. So this is all these are ready, and some of the other things that I'm going to read to just sharpen my Tamil are these. These are like modern Tamil versions of the Thirukkural. This is by Mr. Karunanidhi. And then I have these as well. So Mahabharatam. Then we have Ramayanam by Rajaji. This is Ramayanam by Aiyar Srimad Swami Siddhbhavanandar. So Swami Siddhbhavanandar is one of my favorite Tamil speakers. So I'm listening to him. I'm trying to acquire some nice Tamil speaking skills. Let's see how it goes. So that's about my learning of books. So I delight in my books, and sometimes I get comments that indicate that people are delighting in them as well. So they too enjoy that. So the learned man seeth that the learning that delighteth him delighteth also all that listen to him, and he loveth instruction and acquiring of knowledge all the more on that account. So when I see these comments, I feel I should learn more and I should share more. So that applies exactly to my situation, and that's true. Next, An imperishable and flawless treasure is learning to a man, other wealth is as nothing before it. So, knowledge is imperishable and flawless. As I said, it is imperishable because it continues to help us in our next, through our next 7 births. And it's flawless treasure because flaw, in a sense, if you look at treasure in terms of money, gold, and wealth, they can transform a character, make us arrogant, and make us selfish and greedy. But nothing is of that sort in acquiring knowledge. So the more you acquire knowledge, the better you become, and when you share it, others become better as well. So no other wealth can be compared to this wealth of wisdom. So I think I won't recapitulate today because it's already become a long video, and I think we talked about these 7 verses, and I hope you listen to all these 7 verses and you're going to apply them. In fact, why should I make an exception? Let me recapitulate. Let me just read these 7 verses so you just remember them and start applying them from today. Acquire thoroughly the knowledge that is worth acquiring, and after acquiring it, walk thou in accordance therewith. 2 are the eyes of living kind. The one is called numbers and the other letters. The learned alone can be said to possess eyes. The unlettered have but 2 swords in their head. Knowledge, intelligence is like unto a sandspring. The more you dig and draw, read books, learning, the more you read books, the more learning you acquire, the more training you acquire, and the more you think, the more excellent is the flow thereof. The learning that a man acquireth in this birth will exalt him even unto his 7th reincarnation. The learned man seeth that the learning that delighteth him, delighteth also all that listen to him, and he loveth instruction and acquiring of knowledge all the more on that account. An imperishable and flawless treasure is learning to a man, other wealth is as nothing before it. And this translation is by Mr. V.V.S. Aiyar. Thanks for watching this video.